What's up, guys? I'm finally getting around to doing this video. If you follow me on any form of social media or have seen some of my previous videos, you know that I've had this pen for a few months now, and I haven't really gotten around to doing a video on it just because I kind of had mixed feelings on it. But as you can tell from the box, it's a Visconti. It happens to be my first Visconti pen. Visconti is a brand that, it's an Italian company, and like a lot of Italian brands, they're kind of like a luxury brand, and a lot of their stuff is pretty expensive. For a reference, this happens to actually be, I'll show you. I bought the Homo Sapiens steel version in the Midi size, 25th anniversary. I know it says medium there, but this is actually, I actually got it in a fine nib. This set was around $370 shipped. I got this from Bryant at Chattery Luxuries, Pen Time. He's pretty well known on the pen forums for having really good prices and great customer service. So that's why I ordered it from him. Mainly also because of the price. This 25th anniversary, I'll just show you, comes with, well, first of all, it comes with this nice little box kind of thing. And inside, you see the paperwork that it came with. It's like a mini Visconti catalog for pens that are ridiculously expensive. Also some instructions and stuff. It also came, the 25th anniversary came with their Dream Touch leather 2-pen case. This case right here. And it also came with a Visconti traveling inkwell. If you were to buy this particular pen, the steel age Midi size, it also would have been basically the same price. So the reason why I got the 25th anniversary was partially to also get these accessories, which are somewhat nice. I've done a separate video on the traveling inkwell. I haven't done a video on this case, but it's actually a surprisingly nice pen case. I'm not necessarily sure I would pay the asking price for it on its own, but considering I got it for free, I have no problems using it. It's a well-made case. It uses really like stiff, high-quality leather, and it's great for it's a little too thick to be a pocket case, but it's great for a bag case, and it protects pens really well from being crushed and tossed around and stuff. Anyway, it's not really about the case. Here's also the nib, which I will get to later on, and a pen itself. So let me just remove this stuff. Like I said, the difference between the 25th anniversary pens and the standard standalone pens is basically the same price. So if you don't mind the fact that, like this 25th anniversary emblem is basically, I think, epoxied in place, with most of Visconti's other pens, you can actually buy their My Pen system, which basically in here would be like a magnetic piece, and then you can buy either, focus. My lighting's a little off, so it probably won't focus that well. There we go. You can buy like pieces, either initials or birthstones or all of that stuff that you can use a magnet to pull off and then put a new piece in. On the 25th anniversary, this piece is basically epoxied in place, so you can't do that. But if you don't mind, then you basically get $150 in accessories for free. So not a bad deal. I had originally wrote with this pen. Well, I actually wanted this pen because, I'm sure most people who are in the pen world know that the Homo Sapiens is basically made out of a lava resin. I believe they take volcanic rock from Mount Etna, a volcano in Italy, and mix it 50-50% with some sort of resin, and it basically makes like a really nice rubbery texture. And that's why I wanted this pen. I wanted it for a long time, even before I wrote with it, but it was a very expensive pen. And then sometime last year, during Fountain Pen Hospital's Pen Expo, they had a variety of manufacturers there displaying pens. I got a chance to write with the full-size bronze edition, and I fell in love with how it wrote. The thing is, like, it's a heavy pen, and it's not, I'm not usually one that likes heavier pens. Obviously it is made from 50% rock, volcanic rock, so it is hefty. But it's not heavy in the sense of some other pens like like the Pelikan M800 or M1000, or even like the Montblanc 146 and 149, where they're back heavy because of the brass piston. Because this whole thing is made out of that material, it's very well balanced, which, yes, it's a heavier pen, but because it's well balanced, I don't mind as much as pens that are more back heavy. I will say though that one of the reasons why I don't really love this pen as much is because of the weight. Because I'm so used to lightweight pens, like, the Pelikan M600 is super lightweight, like under 20 grams, I think. Or pens like, Pilot Custom 74, that's also a super lightweight pen. For me to write for an extended period of time with this pen kind of fatigues my hand a little bit. It's just because I'm not used to that kind of weight. But it's a pen, like I said, like I have like kind of like a love-hate relationship with. I love this pen. I love the design of it. I love the material. Well, I don't love all aspects of the design, but I'll get to that. But overall, I like the design of it. I like the material it's made out of. Certain pen materials people love just because of the feel of how it is. Like for example, with ebonite, hard rubber, a lot of people love pens that are made of that material because of how it feels. It feels warm in the hand. It feels, because it's slightly hygroscopic, it feels like you get a good solid grip on it. And the same with this material. This material, when you feel it, it almost feels like neoprene. It feels kind of rubbery, but in actuality, it's actually, basically, it's very solid. I've dropped this pen once, and you can barely tell, like, I know where the scuff is, because I dropped it and I saw it right away. Oh, that may help. There we go. Sorry about that. Great, now I gotta find it. So I know where the scuff is. It happens to be right there. That's where the scuff is from when I dropped it. But if you look at it from a distance, or if you didn't know where I had scuffed it up, you wouldn't be able to tell. Because this is the steel series, this does have a piston fill, which is basically like a captured converter in there. Most people claim it is, so it doesn't necessarily have the best ink capacity, but because I got it in a fine nib, I haven't found that to really be an issue, although it does kind of suck in that there is no ink window here, so you can't really tell when you're running low on ink. But I mean, I guess one of the advantages of having the traveling ink pot is that you can always carry ink with you. And another thing is, this material, it feels nice and grippy because it's very porous and it can absorb moisture quite well, but that also means that you'll absorb ink in. And granted, if you wipe the ink away right after you fill it, it won't really stain that much. But if you look at it in the right light, you could kind of see, like, right in the middle of the section is a very faint line, and that's basically from where I dipped the pen into the ink bottle and then wiped off the excess ink, and it's still kind of there. I haven't really tried deep cleaning this pen yet, so I don't know how easily that'll deep clean out. But looking at other people, it's kind of been mixed. Some people say that the section will stain permanently. Other people say that it doesn't stain for them at all. So who knows? One of the best things I love about this pen, second to the material, is the cap design. It's actually like a hybrid between a slip cap and a screw cap. You can see here there are these grooves that are, I guess, probably milled out in this lava material. And then inside the cap itself is all around are a few pegs that stick out, and it kind of just interlocks into place. And if you look inside, there's actually a spring-loaded inner cap inside the cap itself. And this section part pushes against that inner cap, creating actually a very good seal. But also, because that inner cap is spring-loaded, it allows you to push the pegs into place in the grooves and lock the pen closed. What this makes it is that, unlike a slip cap, this is actually very solid. It's not going to accidentally open on you. But at the same time, you don't have to necessarily unscrew threads. They can design screw threads that unscrew really quickly. Like the Pelikan M600, within like one turn, it opens up and unscrews. With this pen, you just turn it like a quarter of a turn, and it's basically open. So it works out well because I don't like writing with this for a long period of time, so I like to use this for taking notes, or when I'm at work and I'm filling out data sheets. I'm not writing extended period of time, but because I have a tendency to use bulletproof inks, I don't necessarily want the ink to have to dry up on a nib and having to have, startup issues, so I could just cap it right back easily and right away. Plus, it's just kind of fun to play with. A lot of times I just find myself just twisting and untwisting the cap when I'm bored. So that's great. The steel trim is nice. I believe they use marine stainless steel. These two trim rings on the cap, and also this main ring on the body of the pen, which basically says Homo Sapiens on it. If I could get this to focus. There we go. So it just says Homo Sapiens on there. If you get the bronze trim, you're gonna have obviously tarnishing issues because it is bronze. But I believe with the bronze edition, they include a polishing cloth that you can use to polish up the trim rings. With the stainless steel, obviously you're not gonna get any tarnishing issues, which is nice. And I think it goes well. Although the bronze edition is probably I guess is a little more traditional with this material, it still looks nice with the marine stainless steel. And one thing to note is that the steel edition comes in just piston filler, and the bronze edition, and it's the only one that comes in the midi size and the maxi size, or the full size, which is similar in size to a Pelican M800. The bronze edition is the only one that comes with the power filler now, and I know originally when the steel edition first came out, they made a few that were power filler, but not anymore. Now all the steel editions are piston, and I had asked the Visconti rep at during the Fountain Pen Expo if they planned on making a midi-sized piston, a mini-sized power filler, what they call it, and he said no. Because of size restraints and everything. I don't know necessarily how true that is, because obviously TWSBI is coming out with a vac filler that's a mini size, but whatever, he said that they really had no plans on coming out with a power filler midi size, which is a shame. I actually prefer the midi size. It's very similar in size to the M600, which is actually why I was in that pen case there, so I remembered to compare it. So here's the two pens basically uncapped. You can see the Visconti Homo Sapiens is just ever so slightly longer capped, where the that 25th anniversary emblem is, and then uncapped you can see the size difference. It's actually basically, in this case, actually the M600 is slightly longer. Although, to be fair, on both of these pens, I don't have original nibs in. Right now, in my M600, I have a M200 nib, which actually is slightly smaller than M600 nib. So I guess with the original M600 nib, this would be a longer nib. And this, basically, kind of blasphemy, if you want to call it. I don't have the original Visconti nib on here. If you look. One of these days I will just learn to manually focus this camera. Right there, I actually have a Bach German steel nib on here. So originally these Homo Sapiens pens came with a palladium nib, a 23 karat palladium nib, which is with what Visconti calls their Dream Touch nib, and it's a huge selling point for the pen. As you can see here, I actually have in a little nib holder, the original palladium nib. Oops, that's the wrong way. So, I mean, you can see the MIDI size comes with just a monotone small nib, number 5 nib from Bach. Meanwhile, and then obviously on the large size, it comes with a number 6 Bach nib that's also monotone, I guess to go along with the whole steel trim. With the bronze edition, I believe it comes with a dual tone nib, so a number 6 dual tone, obviously. So I had swapped out the nib. So originally when I got this pen, I got this pen for myself as a Christmas present, and I wrote with it for all of 8 hours, and then one of the tines for the tipping broke off. I did not have a pleasant start with Visconti as a brand, and I was very unhappy because I wasn't abusing it. I wasn't, people say that these are soft nibs, and they are soft, but you're still not supposed to flex them, and it's not like I was flexing the nib. Granted, I was having some hard start issues as I was writing, so I was putting a little more pressure than I normally would, and maybe that was the cause of it. I don't know, but I see people actually manhandling their Dream Touch nib, Palladium nibs, and really flexing them out, and they didn't have any issues. So I honestly think I just got a bum nib. The tipping broke off. I basically had to send this pen back to Coles of London, which is currently the US distributor for Visconti. And, I explained to them the situation. I first contacted Brian, and he told me, just send it in. I'll send them an email and let them know that the pen's coming in for warranty repair. So I didn't have to pay for anything. If you go through Visconti's site and you fill out their automated online form, I believe they have a flat fee of like $25 or $35. In this case, I didn't have to pay that. I don't know, whether for warranty repairs you don't have to pay for it or what. But I basically, Brian contacted the people at Kohl's and told me to send it in, and with this pen I included a note saying, here's the pen, here's the problem, can you check this out? And 4 weeks later I got my pen back in the mail. I didn't get sent an invoice or anything, so that's great. So, I mean, they replaced it, relatively quickly. Granted, for me to get a pen as a Christmas present, have it break right away, and then have to wait 4 weeks to be able to really use it, kind of discouraging. But Coles of London did make it right. They did send me back the pen with a replacement nib. Actually, I think they might have sent me a whole new pen, but I'll talk about that for other reasons. So they made it right, and I've been writing with this pen on and off ever since. I've been trying to basically make it my everyday carry pen, but I've gone back to my M600 and my Custom 74, just because, like I said, this pen just doesn't quite fit well with me. The reason why I switched out the nib to a steel Bach nib, first of all, Bach does make the nibs for Visconti. I believe Bach gives Visconti an exclusive on the Palladium nibs. So, I thought, well, Bach makes it, there's no reason why a Bach steel nib won't fit in place. And it fits in just fine. This nib is the number 5 size nib. It's actually a little smaller, though the wing diameter isn't as wide as with the Palladium nib. So if you actually look at the feed, there are actually 2 cutouts on the side that the Palladium nib fits into really well. So there's a bit of play here, but not so big of a deal. I basically pressure fitted in with no problems. Taking out the nib collar is kind of a pain. I didn't manage to take out the nib collar. I know with the larger size maxi pens, you can buy a tool, and there are actually 2 divots in the nib collar that helps you unscrew it. This, I also believe, should unscrew out as a whole nib collar, but it's really tight in there, and there's no real way of getting you to grip in. But the thing is, the nib and feed fit into the collar via just friction fit, so you could just pull the feed and nib out and do maintenance that way, which is what I did. My friend said, it's hilarious. I went through all this trouble of warranting, repairing the Palladium nib, and then also just putting a German nib onto an Italian pen. But it's not like I replaced it with a different manufacturer of nibs anyway, so it's not a big deal. Other gripes I have about this pen is that this clip, if you can see, it's slightly at an angle. I can actually push it to where it's straightened out, but it has a bias towards one side. Kind of a bit of a quality control issue that I really don't feel like I want to send the pen in for again. There's also like a huge scratch along this material here, which I didn't cause, so it just came to me that way. Not a big deal though, because this is a beater pen for me, and the material is quite robust, so I don't really mind. I mean, like I said, I don't want to have to send a pen back and forth for minute things that, for me, I don't plan on having this as a safe queen or anything. I plan to use it, so it's gonna get scuffed up eventually anyway. I also don't like the Visconti billboard clip, as a lot of people call it. You can see it's kind of just painted on there in huge, in a black piece. And that's the thing, it's not like it's laser engraved in there or stamped in there or anything. It's just kind of painted in and stenciled, which I don't really like. And I hear people say that will wear away eventually. I also don't like the clip design. I do like the spring-loaded clip. I think it's quite nice. Lamy 2000 has a spring-loaded clip as well, so it makes it really easy for you to clip it over thick materials. I don't really wear shirts with pockets, so most of the time I just end up clipping this in my pants pocket, if not dropping it all the way down. But the thing I don't like about it is the end of this clip here. You can see it's basically flat up against the cap, and it makes it really hard to slide onto things. It's not like with the Pelican clip where the beak here flares up and you can just easily slide it into a pocket. In this case, you have to kind of fumble with it to kind of like pinch it and get it open and squeeze over. It's just another step that's kind of a hassle. The first body that I had gotten, the piston felt a little weird. As I turned it from this position, this piston all the way up position, I would feel a lot of resistance, and then eventually once I got past a certain point, then the piston would go smoothly up and down the barrel until I got back to that position all the way towards the piston end of the pen. And, it almost felt like as if the captive converter inside was a little disformed, and it was causing a little more pressure for the rubber gasket of the piston to fit through it. So when I sent this pen back, not only did I obviously include a note saying that the nib tine had broken off on one half of the tipping material, but I also asked them, if that was normal. I didn't get a response from them, but when I got this pen back, it worked just fine. So that's one of the reasons why I think they just sent me a whole new pen. I don't remember seeing that scratch here on my original pen, and at the same time, I highly doubt that Kohl's is capable of doing the piston maintenance in-house. They would probably have to send it back to Visconti to get it done, but since I'd gotten the pen back in 4 weeks, they probably just sent me a whole new pen. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not going to really do writing sample because it's not the original nib on there. This is inked up. I don't want to get it super inky. You can see other videos of people doing flex writing with their Palladium nibs. I personally won't be doing flex writing with it. I have flex pens for that specific purpose. But like Visconti says, it is basically like a Dream Touch nib where if it's tuned properly, but like any pen, if it's tuned properly, it's the same way. It writes with no pressure. You can use the weight of the pen and write very easily. Now, this nib I got, the tines were spaced evenly. They were still a little out of alignment, but at least the tine spacing was good. When I looked at the other nib, I could definitely see that the tines were way too enclosed, and that's probably why I had to add. I had all those hard start issues that made it a pain in the ass to write with. So it is very soft, almost to the point where I feel it's kind of a little like mushy. And that's one reason why I don't really like this particular nib. The main reason why is it writes super wet. I can't use it at work because I use cheap paper at work, so it just bleeds through and feathers like crazy no matter what ink I use. For general writing, I could definitely see myself using this to write with, but because it writes so wet and it writes so soft, you need to be very careful about what paper you're using, and that's also why people say that the pens, no matter what the size says, it writes 1 to 2 grades bolder than what the indicated size is. So this fine writes more like a medium to a broad, and etc. etc. And also one thing to note is that the Midi size does not come with an extra fine nib. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure Bach makes an extra fine number 5 nib, but maybe not in Palladium for some reason. I don't know. But you can't get an extra fine nib for the Midi size anywhere. I have actually thought about, if I really like the pen so much, I thought about getting a gold nib for it and just swapping it in. But like I said, I've kind of had some mixed feelings on it. It's definitely a pen that'll stay in my collection because I love the material and I will continue to write with. But previously I had made a video on my my top 5 pens for the past year and few months that I've been into fountain pens, and this did not make the top 5. I'm not necessarily the type of person that thinks that something that's more expensive is better. The most expensive pen that I really write with on a daily basis is my M600. I don't write with my 146 all that much either, and I do write with a lot of less expensive pens, like medium price pens. So higher price doesn't necessarily make it a better price, and that's why you do have to be careful with luxury pen brands like Montblanc, like Visconti. Their pens, Visconti steel nib pens, they're still very expensive. You can get pens in the 200 plus range with steel nib still. Granted, they're gorgeous pens, the material is really nice, but I don't feel like you're getting your money's worth. And, you know, people will give, like, Pelican grief for having such an expensive plastic and gold nib pen, but when you consider, you know, some of the Italian pens that are very nice acrylic, don't get me wrong, they're beautiful, they're lovely to stare at, but you only still get just a steel nib. You know, the price difference there is even more insane in my opinion. But if you can afford it, they're still very nice. And I definitely see myself getting some in the future if I don't completely move on to just custom pens, which you can also still get in very nice acrylics. So yeah, there's that. I'm not sure if there's anything else I missed on this pen. It's a nice pen. It's definitely a grail pen for a lot of people, and that's why it's gonna stay in my collection. You know, I don't really see myself selling this to fund other pens. And if you get a chance to go to a pen store and write with it, you know, a lot of people, this pen they either love or they hate. They will probably love it because they love the feel, the material out of it, just the idea of what it's made out of is cool, but they may hate certain aspects of it. Like, you know I'm not the only one that doesn't like palladium nibs. Other people also feel that it's a little too soft and mushy, but not in like a wet noodle or a flexible gold nib pen kind of way. But other people love it. You know, there are people who are writers who write out their books by hand, and they say, you know, the Homo Sapiens is their favorite pen to write with because it feels really good in hand, and it just writes really easily. You know, if the nib is properly, the tines are properly spaced from the factory, then you'll have no problems writing with it. Without any pressure, which is nice. And because it's a heavier weight pen, you don't have to put down any downward pressure with your own hand. You could just use the weight of the pen to write with. So that's my review of the Visconti Homo Sapiens Midi in fine, or box steel fine. You know, keep that in mind. If you ever damage this nib, it's very expensive. So maybe, like I suggested to someone else on Fountain Pen Network, if you can't afford a new palladium nib, you just throw in a $15, $20 steel nib instead, and you still have the same great body. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thanks